I'm going to tell you about the trade that changed everything for me. It was a Thursday morning. The charts were flat. No volatility, no setups, just slow moving noise. I'd been staring at screens for hours, growing more restless by the minute. My hand hovered over the mouse. I'd convinced myself I saw something on a lower time frame. Then, for reasons I still can't fully explain, I stopped. I closed my laptop and walked outside. When I returned that afternoon, the market had moved violently, exactly where my original analysis predicted. But here's what would have happened if I'd forced that early entry. I would have been stopped out in the chop, emotionally compromised, and probably revenge traded my way into a losing day. Instead, my capital was intact. My mind was clear. And for the first time, I realized something that took years to fully understand. Doing nothing had saved me. Today, I'm going to share the most counterintuitive truth in trading, the skill that separates professionals from the 90% who blow their accounts. It's not a strategy. It's not an indicator. It's patience. Section 1. The psychology of impatience. Here's what nobody tells you about impatience. It doesn't feel like a problem. It disguises itself as motivation, as ambition, as the hunger to succeed. We're biologically wired for action. Our ancestors didn't wait. They moved. Hesitation meant danger. But in markets, this same survival instinct becomes self-destructive. The faster you react, the less you think. The less you think, the more you bleed. I used to equate activity with growth. I'd wake up checking charts before coffee, scanning for trades before breakfast. Every flashing candle triggered adrenaline. I told myself it was focus. It was obsession. By midday, my mind was scattered, exhausted from constant micro decisions. I wasn't trading a strategy, I was feeding an addiction to action. The emotional toll compounds in ways you don't see coming. Each impulsive trade triggers regret. Regret triggers self-doubt. You start questioning your edge, your process, your ability. That doubt erodes discipline, and soon impatience becomes your default state. Here's the cycle. Stress leads to overtrading. Overtrading leads to losses. Losses lead to more stress. By week's end, you're not just losing money. You're losing joy in something you once loved. Section 2. The hidden costs. Let me break down exactly how impatience destroys traders, because it's not just about losing trades. The financial bleed. I once tracked my journal and discovered something painful. More than 70% of my losses came from trades that weren't in my plan. I wasn't being beaten by the market, and I was beating myself. Every unnecessary entry carries hidden friction, spreads, commissions, slippage. These tiny costs compound. You don't go broke from one mistake, you go broke from 1,000 minor leaks. The erosion of self-trust. This is the most devastating cost. Each time you break your rules, you tell yourself, just this once. But your brain records the behavior. The barrier weakens. Soon you don't believe yourself when you say, I'll wait for the right setup. I learned this after a brutal losing streak. My strategy worked fine in back tests. I lost because I couldn't wait for my own signals. When I reviewed my trades, most entries were a few minutes early, a few pips too soon. The difference between success and failure wasn't knowledge, it was timing. The opportunity cost? Here's the cruel irony. Impatience makes you miss the best opportunities. I once spent an entire morning trading a messy range. 5 entries, 4 stopped out. Then in the afternoon, the perfect breakout happened. Clean, textbook, high probability. But I didn't take it. My confidence was gone. I watched it run for hundreds of points without me. That moment taught me more than any win ever could. You can't catch real opportunities if you're chasing noise. Section 3. What patience actually looks like. Most traders think patience means sitting out of the market. That's wrong. True patience is active discipline. It's watching without reacting. It's the conscious rejection of mediocrity. Every skipped trade that doesn't fit your criteria is an act of strength. Think of a sniper. He doesn't shoot at everything that moves. He observes, breathes, waits. The act of holding fire isn't weakness, it's mastery. Or think of a fisherman. A skilled fisherman doesn't thrash his net at every ripple. He studies the current, reads the tide, and waits. The ocean doesn't care about his hunger. It gives only when the moment is right. Trading is no different. The market has rhythms. It teases, pauses, surges. Most traders drown not because they can't swim, but because they can't stay still. The professional's ritual. Here's what changed my trading. I developed what I call the 3 gates of action. Gate 1, is it in my plan? If the trade doesn't match my predefined strategy, it fails immediately. No exceptions. Gate 2, is the setup complete? Almost means no. The market must confirm through price, volume, or structure before I act. Gate 3, am I emotionally neutral? If I feel boredom, frustration, or desperation, I step away. Emotional neutrality is the precondition for discipline. When I first implemented this, it was frustrating. I'd pass on dozens of trades a week. But when I reviewed my journal, my losses dropped by more than half. My confidence returned. Doing less was giving me more. Section 4, building the patience muscle. Patience isn't a gift, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it strengthens only through repetition and resistance. In my early months, every flicker of price triggered a reaction. I'd enter impulsively, exit too soon, then curse my timing. I didn't lack knowledge, I lacked endurance. Building patience begins with awareness. You must recognize the emotions driving your impatience: boredom, fear, greed, the need for control. Then you train yourself to sit with them without reacting. I created a simple technique. When tempted to enter early, I'd set a timer for 10 minutes. During that time, I couldn't act, only observe. Most temptations faded before the alarm went off. Over weeks, the urge weakened. Waiting became easier. Here's what I discovered. Most bad trades happen because of temporary emotions. If you can wait just a few minutes, the urge loses its power. Discipline isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about outlasting it. I also built rules around losses. After every loss, I must wait 24 hours before trading again. At first, it felt like missing a chance to recover, but that break gave me clarity. By separating emotion from execution, I stopped compounding mistakes, the compounding effect. Just like capital, patience compounds. Each act of restraint builds confidence. Confidence makes restraint easier. It's a self-reinforcing loop. I recall a week where I took only 2 trades. Both followed my plan perfectly. Both produced calm, predictable results. When I compared that to past weeks, 15 trades, endless stress, scattered results, the lesson was clear. Less truly was more. Section 5, the ultimate edge. Every trader searches for an edge, a system, an indicator, a secret method. They scour forums, buy courses, test strategies, believing success hides in some undiscovered formula. But here's the truth. The ultimate edge isn't technical. It's psychological, it's patience. Every technical system has competitors. If you find a pattern, someone else will too. But patience can't be copied. It lives inside the trader, not the tool. I've seen 2 traders follow the same system with opposite results. One executed perfectly, the other fell apart. The difference wasn't knowledge, it was control. The patient trader waited for confirmation, stuck to risk limits, stayed calm. The impatient trader rushed, sized up emotionally, exited too soon. Same system, different psychology, opposite outcome. Jesse Livermore, one of the most legendary traders in history, once said, "It was never my thinking that made the big money for me. It was always my sitting." Warren Buffett put it another way. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. These aren't just quotes, they're the distilled wisdom of careers built on waiting. In closing, I measure success differently now, not by profit, but by alignment. If I followed my plan, if I waited when I should have, if I stayed still when others panicked, that's victory. The market stopped feeling like a battlefield and became a mirror. My emotions no longer dictate my actions. When the charts tempt me now, I ask one question: will I wait? Because in that decision lies everything. Your future, your freedom, the difference between another blown account and a career built to last. The market will always test your impulses, but the test is never about timing. It's about trust. Trust in your edge, your process, yourself. So here's my challenge to you. This week, track not just your trades, but your weights. Write down every time you didn't take a trade. Review those decisions. You might find that your empty spaces become your real portfolio, the collection of decisions that didn't happen, yet made all the difference. If this resonated with you, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share it with a trader who needs to hear this. Because in a world that worships speed, patience will always be the ultimate edge. I'll see you in the next one.